our privilege to host this evening's candidates forum with the Pleasant Valley Civic Association, who quite frankly did all the hard work and all we did was open the doors. So we'll take very little credit for it. But I will just say, as a personal note, as a rabbi who has been involved in the town, who has developed a strong relationship with the outgoing administration, with our Congress people, with various civic organizations, justice organizations in the area, and until recently, when my schedule didn't permit it, I was on the Human Relations Commission for the township. I've had the privilege to work with and get to know Susan and Bill and Cindy and Joe over the years. All four of these people have been devoted servants to our town. All four of these people have shown nothing but the utmost respect and interest in my community and this community, and hoping for better things for all of us. I have no doubts and no question and no hesitation about the sincerity, the hearts, or the minds of the individuals behind us who are asking to be the chief servant of the people in the township of West Orange. My own particular opinion, yes, I'm going to vote. And so I think you should vote for, just kidding. But it's been tough for me because my kids have called me and I have voters for the first time in my home. I have 3 voters who did not vote in the last election because they're all like 18, 19 years old. And it's been a wonderful thing for me to try and talk through my experience of these 4 remarkable people behind me, for the 3 remarkable people voting for the first time. As a parent, it's opened my eyes. And I think that we actually have, an embarrassment of riches, quite frankly, here behind me and in front of you tonight. So you didn't come to listen to me. But I will just say we are always, always happy to be a place for the town to gather, and for the town to talk, and for the town to listen, and for our leaders to see a place where we can come to consensus, hope, or even respectful differences over time. So thank you. Welcome to B'nai Shalom. I hope you come for more happy occasions in the future. We're always happy to have you here. And now I introduce Roz from the Pleasant.
Thank you, Rabbi Tobin, for allowing us to use this beautiful sanctuary, one that I grew up in. Welcome to the 2022 Mayoral Forum. Very happy to be hosting on behalf of Pleasant Valley Civic Association, which is dedicated to the safety and beautification of the Pleasant Valley Way corridor. I would like to thank Gary Rothschild for helping us manage this day, Lori Capper, my co-founder, is here for logistical details and for collating. Thank you very much to everybody that wrote questions in. There were many, many questions. We'd be here for 3 hours if I used all the questions, so we had to edit, collate. Thank you, Lori. Michelle Bobrow, please take a stand and say hi. She is our League of Women Voters moderator. We are very fortunate to have Michelle here with us today. And Zadi Bayabushka is our videographer, and this will be posted as soon as possible, probably within 24 or 36 hours. So welcome. No further ado, we're going to get with the questions.
But first, a word from your moderator. The League of Women Voters of New Jersey is a nonpartisan political nonprofit that works to empower voters and defend democracy. Founded over 100 years ago, we make democracy work by protecting voting rights and encouraging voter participation. Elections and voting are core concerns of the League of Women Voters. Leagues are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions that the candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decision and participate in the electoral process. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or of footage from this forum in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including but not limited to internet, cable, radio, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. And before we begin, as a courtesy to the candidates, please turn off all your cell phones and other electronic devices now and refrain from taking photos during the forum. My name is Michelle Bobrow. Following the League rules of impartiality, I'm an experienced League-trained moderator, a resident of Maplewood, and not a West Orange voter. And I am pleased to have been given this opportunity to be with you today. I also request that you hold all your applause until after the candidates are finished. And the format for today is as follows. The questions posed have been developed by the Pleasant Valley Civic Association to cover a broad range of topics. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute to answer the Civic Association questions, with no rebuttals allowed, and will end with 2 minutes for closing. The timekeeper, Lori, will hold up a yellow card signaling 30 seconds, then a red card signaling time is up. When you are called to speak, you will stand up at your podium so you can see and have your voice protected. The 4 candidates for the 4-year term for West Orange Mayor are Joe, in alphabetical order, Joe Krakowiak.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Cindy Matute Brown,
Clara.
Susan McCartney,
Good afternoon.
and Bill Rutherford. And now let us begin.
My name is Cindy Matute Brown. I am your councilwoman here in West Orange for the last 4 years. I came to West Orange 22 years ago to ensure my children benefited from a great public school system, as well as the diverse community that we have here in West Orange. We have 3 adult children, 32, 29, and 27, all through the district of West Orange, and I am so grateful for the school community, my neighbors and my friends, for helping us raise such global citizens. I decided to run for council 4 years ago because I noticed there was a lack of representation for some of us, and needed to make sure that a progressive voice was leading the effort for change in a positive direction. I feel I have done that over the last 4 years in West Orange, having ushered in a cultural literacy language that was completely absent from Town Hall. I've also been able to make sure that we have set ourselves on a path for economic development and growth. I made sure that when the state of New Jersey legalized and regulated the cannabis industry, that we were able to participate in a very safe way, generating revenues for us that will help us relieve some of the over-reliance on property taxes that we all experience. I've also made sure to acquire the Rock Spring Golf Course. There is a supermajority vote that was necessary, and I was that supermajority vote. So having ushered in making sure that we saved $600,000, making sure that we finally defaulted the failed redeveloper in downtown, we are now set and poised to potentially redevelop and recreate a 22-acre downtown facility. I'd be happy to continue to speak to you on that, but I see that the cards are coming up, and that is it for my introduction. Thank you all for coming out.
Bill Rutherford.
Good afternoon, West Orange. I'm Councilman Bill Rutherford. I'm asking for you to vote for me this November 8th for mayor because I do believe together we can build the premier suburb in the country. I've spoken about this with many of you in the past. We have some of the best assets in Essex County and in the state of New Jersey, and when we leverage those assets and develop around them, we will build the premier suburb in the country. That will take some time. None of that will happen overnight. The vision will take much more than 4 years to bring to full fruition. But there are some things we can do right away. And if you vote for me this November, you can count on me next year to begin a townwide solar project. That will provide much needed revenue for us. It will help us mitigate some of the effects of climate change. It will help us lower our carbon footprint, as well as save us some money on our electricity bills. That will be national news. West Orange will be in the headlines because there's not a single municipality that has done that yet. And if we are going to be serious about addressing the effects of climate change, we've got to demonstrate that with our own actions. In January, I will also start a senior advisory board and a youth advisory board, so that as we go about leveraging these assets, developing in commercial spaces, and making sure we build the right kind of community for all of us, that our seniors and our youth are not left out. Their voices are needed. They should be amplified, and I'm happy to hear them, giving them structure and access directly to Town Hall. The 30-second clock has started, so I'm going to stop, but I do want you to know one more thing. I spent 23 years as an asset manager. I have a degree in economics. We're facing some uncertain economic times right now, and we're going to need that kind of experience to lead us through the next 4 years because this economy has not been kind to us so far, and economists believe it's going to get worse. Thank you, West Orange. I'm asking for your vote this November 8th.
Thank you. Susan McCartney.
Good afternoon. I'm proud to be a West Orange resident. My husband Joe and I bought our home almost 40 years ago. We raised 3 wonderful children, all graduating from the West Orange public school system, and now we enjoy 6 young grandchildren. When my graduate thesis was published, I became an adjunct professor at Seton Hall University and Montclair State University. Many of you know me as an educator and business owner. I am proud of the fact that I just celebrated 25 years nestled in the Orator Congregation building right across the street in a learning environment I created that welcomes and reflects a microcosm of our community. Diversity, inclusion, and belonging is the core of my work. I am so proud of the fact that I have been elected to serve you on the Town Council for 5 consecutive years. As current council president, I am the council liaison to the Planning Board, Arts Council, Environmental Commission, Senior Housing Association, and the Community Emergency Response Team. Networking, problem solving, and developing trusting relationships have become my strengths. With my votes on council, West Orange has experienced the lowest tax increase in Essex County for the past 12 years. And along with $40 million in grant awards that I helped secure and work with the administration. As mayor, I will serve with the same conviction. West Orange needs my experience of being so actively involved in the mayor's office now. I thank you, Rabbi Tobin, Roz, Lori, and Moderator Bobrow for the opportunity to introduce myself today. Thank you.
Joe Prokoviak.
Thanks to the sponsors and all who made this event happen, including Michelle. Here I was going to say I'm not going to mispronounce the last name, and I mispronounced the first name. Michelle Bobrow, the League of Women Voters moderator. My family has lived in West Orange for close to 20 years. My wife Claire was born and raised here. We have 3 children, all in their 20s, who, like a lot of you with adult kids, live at home with us. I have a journalism degree with concentrations in economics and finance. I reported for USA Today and was a stringer for the Wall Street Journal, which means I reported and wrote but didn't get a byline. I covered municipal finance and commercial real estate, then worked for a municipal bond insurer, so I'm well versed in many of the issues that we face. We moved to West Orange and absolutely love the diversity. I say the world comes to West Orange. I've met a Russian chess international master and royalty from Africa, and this just makes the town such an interesting place to live. I coached youth a lot, including 3 sports at MTL, and was active in scouting. In 2008, some residents asked me to help bring transparency to the complexities of downtown redevelopment. I began speaking at council meetings and started a website focused on municipal government called West Orange Grassroots. Eventually, people asked me to run for council, and I served for 10 years. I support term limits for better government, to keep it public service and not a career, so I term limited myself in 2020. But some of the comments here make me remember that I was calling for the default of Prism, the downtown redeveloper, for approximately 10 years before it actually happened. No one would listen to me. I also wrote the proposed Senior Citizen Advisory Board ordinance, but I couldn't get a second on the council to discuss and to vote on it. I love this town and want to serve you more. I know how the sausage is made, and I know we can do much better. The keys are transparency and accountability, fiscal responsibility, and smart development. My platform is fiscal responsibility, but I have to stop there. Thanks.
Now you have 60 seconds each to answer the following questions. Number 1, congratulations. You've just been elected mayor of West Orange. What will be your first major action, Mr. Kukoviak?
Thank you. Our town, which is a wonderful place to live, is in terrible financial condition. And the first thing we need to do, first thing I need to do after getting into office, is straighten out the finances. We have added 77% increase in our debt in the last 3 years. We raised taxes 8.3% in 2019, and we've got to get a hold of the ballooning debt service, that's making upward pressure on taxes. So we've got to get organized, we've got to fix the budget process, and we need to fix the finances, because everything else that the town depends on good stewardship and good financial management, and we don't have it now.
Ms. Matute Brown.
Thank you. The first thing I will do is hire a town planner. We do not have cohesive, smart development in town because we lack the expertise of a town planner. We lack the expertise of an economic developer that will ensure that we continue to grow economically. There is a need for us to be able to make sure that we contact our residents as we go through the process of the limited development that still has to occur. And what I mean by limited is that we do have an affordable housing obligation to meet, that's 450 units. We need to do that in a way that is responsible, but we need to do that under the guidance of a town planner. Also, casting a wide net for the creation of our planning board would include residents in town who have planning board experience with economic sustainability as a focus, and that's who we need to make sure that we have on the planning board, because we are not planners, that is not our expertise. We need people who know what they're doing, and I will stop there. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney.
As mayor, I will focus on an action plan that listens and absorbs what our municipal employees are saying to make efficiencies where necessary. I want to restructure our planning department to establish a strategic economic development office with funds already appropriated in the municipal 2021 budget to market and brand our town to attract new family-friendly commercial ratables to offset our taxes. I want to conduct a New Jersey Clean Energy feasibility study on the installation of solar carports on our municipal parking and at Board of Ed parking lots. And I want to implement the sustainability management plan that I helped create, mentoring Stevens Institute graduate students on even more energy savings, cost savings. During my term as councilwoman, I have collaborated with the administration to deliver $40 million in grant awards. You have to know I will continue to work to seek local, state, and federal funding to enhance our township.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. So, as I said in my opening statement, the first major project that I will take on is a townwide solar project. What that means is every single municipal property we have that is eligible for a solar project will be utilized for solar. That's all of our firehouses, that's our municipal building, our town hall, every parking lot we have. That kind of a project will generate millions of dollars in revenue to us from the developer right away. And that's number one, in addition to the cost savings and lowering of our carbon footprint. I'll also meet with all of our employees and our union leaders to make sure we begin to build the relationships and increase morale that will help us get better outcomes from all residents. And finally, as I said before, Senior and Youth Advisory Board to make sure those voices are amplified in all the planning that we have to do. Last thing is creating a Chief Technology Officer. This is the home of Thomas Edison, the home of innovation. Everything we do here should be focused on technology. We should solve all of our challenges using technology, and I'll make sure we have the right people in place to help do that. Thank you.
Between 2018 and 2021, West Orange experienced 34 pedestrian and cyclist injuries and 3 pedestrian fatalities. This is a picture of just one of the ramps intersecting Pleasant Valley Way and Route 280, which has seen no safety upgrades in over 45 years. Excessive speeds, poor lighting, unsafe crossings, and a lack of enforcement are treacherous to our students, transit users, bicyclists, and synagogue attendees. If elected, what new strategies will you utilize to make the entire corridor safer? Ms. Matute.
Thank you very much. That also starts with a planning board that is going to be effective in making recommendations to change our zoning with respect to our speed limits. That does have to be reinforced. The town council recently did pass an ordinance that we will be sharing with the county because it's the process in which this happens. We have a lot of county roads, there's intersecting state roads, and like the picture that was just shown, it desperately needs attention. the way to do that is to make sure that we have a working relationship with the county so that we can be effective in making those changes. We currently do not have an effective relationship, and that is very damaging to us. But also making sure that those who serve on the Pedestrian Safety Committee in town are actually effective in the jobs that they've been appointed to do. I understand that that is something that needs to be reinforced, and that's something that I will make sure that when we are making appointments, the appointments are made for those individuals who are willing to continue to work towards improving pedestrian safety.
Ms. McCartney.
By the number of grants pending and the grant funding already received, pedestrian and traffic safety is an utmost priority. Early this year, the township was granted technical assistance from New Jersey Department of Transportation to prepare a comprehensive Vision Zero action plan and a $920,000 New Jersey Department of Transportation grant for safe routes to schools. To date, the township has in place a pedestrian safety advisory commission and an adopted master plan complete streets policy. With bipartisan federal infrastructure funds, we have improved school travel plans at Kelly, Redwood, and Gregory. And there are currently $3 million in traffic and safety grants pending for review from DOT, DEP, Division of Highway Safety, and New Jersey Transit. As council member, I have worked collaboratively with the administration and the county to apply for these grants. And as mayor, no, I will continue to do so for safety.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. Since my wife and I moved here 21 years ago, we've not seen much improvement in sidewalks in town at all. I'm sure you would agree. It is way past time that we do something about that. Now, just this year, I worked with Sasha Beth from the Department of Public Works to begin a relationship with our county exec. And in that relationship, in that conversation, our county exec was very supportive of new sidewalks in town, including down Northfield Avenue from the top of the hill going into the reservation to allow folks that live on the Livingston side of town to get down without having to drive. We can do better, and it does begin with getting politics out of the way and making sure that we have the right relationships at the county and state level to get these jobs done. I will do that for you as mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Prokoviak?
Kudos to the Pleasant Valley Civic Association and the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. They've come up with a lot of good suggestions, a lot of recommendations. Virtually none of them have been passed by the council. We need to do a better job of that. We need to go through the areas of town where seniors walk, and we need to make sure the lights are timed for senior citizens and not just for regular people. We need to use technology to do a better understanding, get a better understanding of where the traffic problems are. We need more bike paths. We need to accommodate the new e-bikes that are around, and we need to move more traffic to single lanes to slow people down. And we also, I just want to give kudos to the Civic Association because they were responsible in part for pushing for improvements on the Mount Pleasant Avenue snake turn that everybody is familiar with.
Let's talk about town finances. How much money have we borrowed in the last 3 years? How much debt are we carrying? At what interest rate? How do these finances position us in the future with rising inflation and increasingly high borrowing rates?
Ms. McCartney?
Some might call it debt, I call it investing in our town. We invest in our infrastructure by paving our roads, upgrading our sewer system. We need to maintain our parks and fields. We purchased a new a new senior commuter shuttle bus. We invested in school safety zones at Kelly, Redwood, and Gregory. We invested in preserving 136 acres at Rock Spring Country Club. And the county, with financial help from the county of $750,000, we preserved 94 acres at Crestmont. We invested 22 acres to create a film production district in our downtown. The total debt for West Orange is 2.1%, far below the state debt limit of 3.5%. And released just this week, the township maintains an S&P AA bond rating. According to the bond report, it states, there is a stable outlook for West Orange's budgetary performance, leading to stable or increasing fund reserves as the economy gradually grows.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. While we do have a AA bond rating, and I am grateful that that's where we are right now, the economy is shifting and changing. And so if the economy doesn't grow and those revenues don't come in as planned, obviously we're going to have to make up the difference as residential taxpayers. So I have voted for the debt on Crestline. I have voted for the debt on downtown. And I believe those were the right things to do. We absolutely need to preserve our canopy. We absolutely need a new downtown. And if we don't have a new downtown, we won't have the commercial tax ratables we need to provide property tax relief for residential taxpayers. That is our gold mine. That is the jewel. And when we develop that properly, without putting too many kids in school, and that is an issue that we all face, then we can see some of the relief we need as residential taxpayers and have some of the money we need to invest in other parts of town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Krakowiak.
Thank you. In the last 3 years, Council members McCartney and Matute Brown have voted for $113 million in debt. That's up 77% to $142 million. And it also ballooned the debt service that's required to pay it back. So that puts upward pressure on the taxes, and that's why we have to really make changes here. And it's likely to get worse because the Federal Reserve has already doubled interest rates this year. They said they're going to do it more, and what that does is it's doubled almost $49 million that we have in short-term debt that we've never rolled over into longer-term debt that wouldn't be affected by upward changes in interest rates. So we have a lot of work to do to fix our finances, because again, it's the finances that enable us to provide all of the other services that we really want.
Ms. Matute Brown.
Thank you. I understand that it takes money to make money, and the votes that I have made have done both. The Rock Spring vote for the acquisition brings us in annually $600,000. We would have lost that revenue had the county purchased it because the county does not pay us any taxes. That was a smart investment on my part. And also, the redevelopment of downtown, that is an investment that we need to make. There is no way that we could continue to generate revenue when we are all leaving town to go patronize other businesses. We need to make sure that, yes, we are below the 2.1% cap, but we also need to implement a debt reduction service. And there is a plan that I introduced to the municipality. However, I was told that I'm not the mayor, so I don't get to tell them what to do. I do think that there is a possibility for us to reduce our taxes as our debt service as soon as we acquire the Green Acres funding, and I have to stop there.
West Orange Township employee John Gross is a full-time financial officer, a full-time business administrator, and also employed as a part-time CFO in Dover. Do you feel he can successfully navigate 2.5 jobs, yes or no? And please explain, Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. So Mr. Gross has been very responsive to every call that I've made and every call that the council has made thus far. I am not satisfied that he has 2.5 jobs. That was a very tough vote, and I told everybody that when I spoke with Mr. Gross, as well as all of my council colleagues. It was a tough vote because it put us in a bad position. We were either going to vote for Mr. Gross to be the BA as well as the CFO, or we were going to have a new BA, and that would handcuff the new mayor to that person. Given that this is an election year, given that the outgoing administration is not going to be in place and in power, I thought it would be unfair to handcuff the next mayor to a BA that was chosen by this mayor. And so for $40,000, we were able to do that and extend him for at least 1 year. As mayor, I will certainly make different choices. Thank you.
Mr. Krakowiak.
In short, no. Mr. Gross should not have 2.5 jobs. I'm not even sure he should have 1. He was the one who has led the charge in advising the council to keep borrowing, keep borrowing, keep borrowing. He was also the one who decided not to roll over all of this short-term debt into longer-term debt, even though interest rates were rising 18 months ago with rising inflation. So in addition, not only are we paying him somewhere north of $250,000 a year, we don't even know how much he's getting paid because the current council, when they gave him this raise, declined or refused to provide to the constituents the exact amount of money that he's getting paid. We don't know how much he's getting paid, and we need to find that out, and we need to cut back on his duties. He can't do 2.5 jobs at the same time.
Ms. Mitchell-Brown?
Thank you. And I will say, as much as I have a great working relationship with John Gross, I did vote no for his last contract, because his last contract extended his contract for 3 years, thus encumbering a new administration, which I thought was not the sensible thing to do. Mr. Gross is making an additional $64,000 after that vote was taken. He is also making, well, I should say we are all paying an additional 14%, including his pension payments, but this is a deferred pension payment we've now given him. We've also given him longevity, which the municipality has not given to employees in over 10 years. But here we are, the council majority, minus myself, voted to make sure that he kept that contract. It is unfair when we are going into a new year, a new administration, and 6 labor contracts to have to negotiate to make sure that one individual has really captured the bulk of the funds that are available for negotiations. It's not fair, it's not just, and it's not what we need.
Ms. McCartney?
I believe Mr. Gross is an outstanding, exceptional chief financial officer. He has, I just mentioned before about our debt, he has been able to maintain our bond rating, our debt statement, far below the state limit of 3.5%. We are typically around 1.65%, and we have had exceptional purchases between the golf course, 94 acres, 6 acres at Ridgeway. I believe he's doing an outstanding job, and we have a shared service agreement with Dover for John to, we are getting paid for John to do that job. He has assumed the responsibility of the responsibility of the business administrator when our business administrator retired in December. And I think he's doing an outstanding job.
If elected, will you reinstate a full-time planner? Why not? And if yes, how soon after you were elected?
Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. Yes, I will do that immediately. There are qualified candidates all around the state that can do that job. And we need someone in that space if we're going to take a comprehensive town-wide approach to development. Too many of our developments are what appear to be haphazard. They don't seem to leverage each other. They don't build on each other. And we don't have any theme or consistency in our various parts of town. We haven't done anything to partner with the zoo where the zoo is on Northfield Avenue. We haven't done anything for Pleasantdale. We haven't done anything consistently for South Valley, the Arts District. Most people don't even know we have an Arts District, or even if they are in it. And certainly our Main Street needs attention. We need someone to shepherd that effort town-wide and make sure that we leverage those assets. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney?
Order, please.
Yes, sir. Planner versus consultant. Let's remember, salaries, health benefits, and pensions make up our general expenditures in our municipal budget. The township has a full-time zoning officer, building officer, and administrative planning director. Years ago, in an effort to save tax dollars like many other municipalities in the state, the township decided to retain a consultant town planner at a fraction of the cost. We could increase the scope of that contract, or what I propose as mayor is to establish a strategic economic development office with funds already appropriated in 2021 budget to brand and market our town, to create a vision we seek, to attract family-friendly commercial ratables that will generate the revenue to offset our taxes.
Thank you. Ms. Matute-Brown?
Thank you. As I said earlier in my opening statement, it is the first thing that I will do because it is what we need. We are smack in the middle of several development projects with hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars that are going to come into downtown, and we do not have a cohesive plan. We cannot say that we need an economic developer and have a consultant, because we all know consultants do the work that they are given to do. A town planner would, in essence, look at our master plan, and our master plan has really good bones in it, and make sure that there is a streamlined process to get the work that is required to be done. and also that would work with a planning board made up and comprised of planners, expert planners, who know the work that needs to be done, who would have that focus on environmental sustainability, and will help lead us in cohesive development in all of the corners of West Orange, especially in the forgotten corners of West Orange. And I'll stop there.
Mr. Krakowiak.
Here's another one of those great ideas that I was talking about almost 10 years ago. For those of you who have been paying attention, Susan Borg was an outstanding full-time planner. She got very ill and eventually had to retire because of illness and left. And as soon as she started leaving for retirement, I said we need a full-time planner, because what's happened is it's turned into a black hole, and it's being filled by the mayor, who has no planning experience, and that's why we're getting multiple 30-year redevelopment tax abatements that are mortgaging our future by giving away future tax revenues. And we have to stop that. I've been saying we need a full-time planner with economic development experience, and we need to focus on commercial rather than residential, because that's what most of this new development has been, is residential. We've got plenty of residential units already, and it's costing us an arm and a leg of our services, and we need to focus on commercial.
All have town council experience. What is the accomplishment you are most proud of? Ms. McCartney.
I think I have to put my glasses on for this one. I feel that I am the environmental champion for our township. I have been the Sustainable Jersey Township Coordinator, and I reinstated the dormant West Orange Environmental Commission years ago and became the council liaison to the West Orange Environmental Commission. I initiated our mandatory recycling ordinances. I initiated a tax reassessment on cell towers in 2020, resulting in a reassessment of our cell towers at $730,000 in revenue, plus $50,000 in assessments moving forward. I strengthened our tree ordinance, submitted numerous grants, I'm going to talk fast, numerous grants from the NJAC, Sustainable Jersey, New Jersey American Water, New Jersey Transportation, and the Senior Livability Initiative. There's still so much to do. There's still so much to do.
Mr. Tupran.
Thank you. I'd say that I'm most proud of creating a revenue source that is of commercial revenue. When New Jersey regulated the cannabis industry, I made sure that we were ready. Those revenues are going to help provide relief for our property taxes. It's something that we all are pained with, unfortunately, but there is some relief to come, and that's something that I had done. When there were naysayers about even having the conversation about cannabis, I knew that we had to become educated. I held a town hall to make sure that we were educated so that we could make the right decisions for our town. And I'm proudest of my task force, who was charged with making sure that we look at micro businesses, because our residents are able to participate in that. And the first license that we supported is a woman of color who was approved at the state level. She has children in the school district, and she will be cultivating cannabis here in town. Our focus is to make sure on the task force that we do not bring in mega corporations, but we make sure that we give our residents the opportunity to grow their own wealth. Thank you.
Mr. Krakowiak.
What I'm most proudest of is in my 10 years on the council, I provided tremendous transparency and accountability to what the council was doing. When I came on, there was virtually no explanation to the residents on the major projects that were going on in town. Early on when I was there, after I joined, I was able to get a change in the council rules ordinance that forced the administration and the council to provide agendas and the proposed legislation several days before the meeting took place. Before I did that, I had to actually get the information and put it on the internet myself. I was also able to force the town to put the videos of the council meetings online. Before I got in office, I was having to buy the video meetings, cut them up and edit them and put them on the internet myself. But once I got on the council, I figured it was a good time to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. I am most proud of my consistency. When I ran for council, I took on the 5 major issues in town. I told everyone what I would do and how I felt, and I honored every single one of those. When I said that Fairview, a no-bid contract owner in town, should not be doing business in town because they're meddling in local politics, I stood my ground and voted against them. I've done quite a bit of work behind the scenes as well. One of the things I'm very proud of is working with one of our young superstars, Bobrow, a young man who just graduated, is now at Cornell University, and he and I worked together to get the first civilian complaint review board. And while it has not been staffed yet, it will be. And there's some other things too, but they're waving the sign at me. But I do think it's important that we elect politicians that are going to say what they mean and do what they say. Thank you.
West Orange has the fourth highest tax rate in the county. What ordinances, zoning changes, and land use policies can the township enact to increase its commercial tax base to offset residential taxes? Ms. Matooty-Brown.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question just briefly?
Our town has the fourth highest tax rate in the county. What ordinances, zoning changes, and land use policies can the township enact to increase its commercial tax base to offset residential taxes?
Thank you. I would have to say that there is no ordinance that prevents us from engaging commercial development in town. The reality is that this administration has been very developer friendly, and that's what part of what has increased our tax rate. We are the fourth largest, highest rate in Essex County. So when so many residents look to Montclair, let's say, to say why are their taxes so much lower? Why is East Hanover so much lower? Well, because they have ensured, and this is one thing that we need to do, is ensure that in our ordinance that there is no wiggle room for pilot programs when developers come for redevelopment. It should be a standard for anyone developing in town to require them, as Montclair does, to contribute 20% of their building to affordable housing. We don't do that. We wheel and deal with developers, and that's not something that we can continue to do. It's not something that I am going to continue to do, as this administration has done for years. That's what's gotten our tax rate so high.
Mr. Krakowiak.
That's very interesting to hear because Council Member Matooty-Brown has voted for these 30-year tax abatements that have pilots that bring in, start out at about 10 to 15% of what property tax revenues would bring in. So that's what's hurting us. We're giving away our future by providing these abatements and pilots that start out much lower and only true up to the proper tax rate after 30 years. As a consequence of these actions, our tax base has declined in 8 of the last 10 years. That means the assessment pie is getting smaller, and that means we have to pay a larger slice of our taxes to make the budget whole. And that has to stop because it's unsustainable. So both of those will happen if you get a full-time planner with economic development experience that focuses on commercial and moves away from residential. It's killing us.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. I'm glad my colleagues agree that we need to focus on commercial. I've been saying that since I started running for town council in 2020. Here's what we can do now, though. Immediately, I will call for a moratorium on all steep slope development. That will preserve the Mount Pleasant Forest. That will affect multiple properties in town, including where the Essex House is, as well as on Pleasant Valley Way. We can do that right away. Now, that's not a permanent solution. It certainly does take a process, but it can be done. And that's what we need to do if we're serious about addressing climate change and if we're going to limit residential development so our schools don't get even more overcrowded. If we're not careful and don't get in front of the growing population that we have, we're going to need to build a new school. No one wants to say that. No one wants to talk about it. It's not popular during a mayoral campaign. But we have 50,000 residents now. And if we're not careful, we're going to need to make some major investments to accommodate the students in the school. We've got to stop, and I think I can. Thank you.
Ms. McCarthy.
The overarching issue is and always has been our property taxes. Even though West Orange has experienced the lowest increase in Essex County in the last 12 years, this rate is unsustainable. As mayor, my action plans are practical. They will be, as I mentioned, restructuring the planning department to establish that strategic economic development office to attract family-friendly commercial rentals. I want to conduct the New Jersey Clean Energy feasibility study on the installation of carports at our municipal lots and Board of Education. As council liaison to the Environmental Commission, I already implemented the direct install program, upgrading our municipal buildings to be more energy efficient, saving $100,000 in the first year it went into effect. And I do want to implement that sustainability management plan that I worked on with the Stevens Institute graduate students I mentored for cost savings measures. During my term on council, I have collaborated with $40 million in grant awards. I will certainly continue to do that.
Following up with one of the answers, there is a possibility of developing 12.5 acres known as the Mount Pleasant Forest on the eastern portion of Ridge Road, which the Open Space Committee voted to unanimously preserve. What is your position for this land use, and how does our steep slope ordinance play a part?
Mr. Krokowia.
The Mount Pleasant Forest sits at the top of the first mountain. Right below it is the Crest Ridge Apartments. Does everybody know what happened at the Ron Jolin Apartments on Northfield Avenue? The rock face behind it collapsed and forced the immediate evacuation. Crest Ridge Apartments has the same rock face that's up against this property that we're talking about. I was on the council liaison to the Open Space Committee and helped lead the effort to get a unanimous recommendation from that committee to the council. They never put it up for a vote, and again, it's another one of these things. All of the ideas that I had was on the council. You're keeping hearing them from the other council people now. Now, earlier this year, the council unanimously refused to buy that property. These people sitting right here, whatever they tell you, they refused to buy that property this year, or earlier this year, and now there's a planning department application to put 4 mega houses there and shove the water, cut 525 trees and shove the water down in Crest Ridge Apartments and the rest of the neighborhood.
Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. Yes, I did. We did take a vote this year to preserve the forest, and all of us voted against it. But the reason we voted against it, there was a settlement attached to it that we had no idea how it would affect us financially. We had no idea what that settlement included. And when you talk about transparency in government, you have to have that. So I voted against that. I would vote against it again if I did not have the information needed to make an informed decision. And you should expect that of your elected officials. Now, I already said I would call for a steep slope moratorium on development. But in addition to that, I will work with our congressman to either apply for Inflation Reduction Act money or infrastructure bill money to preserve that forest. The congressman is supportive of it. He has stated so publicly on multiple occasions. The only reason we haven't done it is because our administration refuses to put in the application. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney?
During my term on council, I have approved the acquisition of over 200 acres of open space to either avoid the threat of development or to provide public recreational amenities. Ridge Road is a private road on a steep slope, providing no public use, yet we are being asked to spend public funds, and we would need to bond also to purchase that property. To protect this site and all steep slopes in our town, I initiated the review of our steep slope ordinance with the legal and engineering departments. Amendments were recommended and adopted by the council. The amended ordinance provides safeguards, buffers, setbacks, should any development be proposed. I do struggle with this. Is it really an environmental issue or an economic one for the township? I am not in support of this purchase at this time, using public funds on a private road.
Ms. Matuka?
Interesting, my council colleague continues to say, Mr. Korbiak, former council colleague, that all of these issues he's talked about, and he's quite right, in 10 years, and unfortunately has not been able to succeed in those efforts. My council colleague, McCartney, just stated that she initiated the steep slope study. Quite to the contrary, I have emails to the administration requesting that we be proactive in engaging not just the rocks, the Mount Pleasant rocks, steep rock slope, but all of the rock faces that are in town, specifically with a priority to those homes that back up against them. And we'd share the cost with those homeowners. We have reached out to the state for assistance because it is a monumental task to have a geotechnical engineer come into town and study all of those rock faces. But I initiated that with the administration. And it is true that I did vote no the one time it came up for a vote because it was tangled into a settlement for a lawsuit. But I do support the acquisition.
According to the ADL, the Jewish population is the most targeted religious community in the United States, with anti-Semitic incidents being reported at record levels. Over the years, many residents have experienced this anti-Semitism, especially through Facebook comments. Many townwide events are scheduled on Saturday when those who observe the Sabbath are unable to attend. Describe your plan to foster a better relationship between our Orthodox population and all diverse backgrounds.
Ms. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. I have not waited to be elected mayor to be able to speak on this, to advocate for all of our Jewish brothers and sisters, all of our brown and black brothers and sisters in this community. I do believe it is unfair to exclude a large percentage of our community here in West Orange when we only plan things that are convenient for us. We do need to change and alternate the way that we celebrate, honor, and have events in town that will give our Jewish community access to all of those events so that they can feel that they are truly a part of our community. So that is the focus that I have. We are looking to schedule a roundtable because I feel that there is a lot of division in town, specifically at this time. There is rising anti-Semitism across the nation, and even in our own town, right outside of this synagogue, we had a swastika painted. Thankfully, the police acted quickly and they were able to apprehend the perpetrator. But also in Livingston, they just had another incident where a student drew a swastika in their school facility. We need to put a stop to this, and the only way we're going to do it is if we come together as a community and advocate for one another.
Mr. Krakovia.
This is the United States of America. We should not tolerate discrimination on any group of people whatsoever at any time. And the Orthodox community here in West Orange is vital. It's part of the foundation of this town. And we need to recognize that, and we need to make changes in the way that we operate the town. We need to move some of our Saturday events to Sunday so we can attract more people. On Facebook, it's true that we get some comments that can be interpreted or that are actual anti-Semitism, but Facebook runs two ways. And the last time with the first debate, the mayoral and council debate, there was plenty of pushback from not only Orthodox, from the rest of the community, saying that this should not be tolerated. So we need to take that into account and continue to move forward with the Orthodox community in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important for us to acknowledge what an ally actually looks like. This is not about a tweet. This is not about a post. It's about doing the real work that's necessary to build community, build bridges between communities. Prior to this campaign, I worked with the rabbi of this facility, this synagogue, Rabbi Tobin, and Melinda Wertali, a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim, and a Christian pastor, to create safe spaces in town so that we could talk about the real issues that affect us across communities. That's the real work of an ally. Now, because the politics in town are so difficult, I had to stop that, because people would assume that it was for political gain, and that does not get the right outcomes. And so it's a shame that we had to make a tough choice like that. But that's the real work that needs to be done, and you can count on me to do it. My door is open to every community. I understand the challenges the Jewish community faces in particular, and I'm happy to do the real work about building community. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney.
proud of our community. We rise up to support all of our religious affiliations in town. For 25 years, my school is housed in an Orator congregation directly across the street, and I taught Sunday school at St. Joe's for 24 years. I own a preschool. Diversity, inclusion are the core values that I live by, creating a sense of belonging. As mayor, I will recognize, we already recognize and appreciate the diversity of our town, and I would strive to create that community. I am proud of our community, how we rise up and support each other.
Many residents go to Montclair or South Orange for that walkable downtown feeling. In over 2 decades, the Edison site is still incomplete. What is your vision to create a vibrant Main Street corridor?
Mr. Krakowiak.
I have to say, honestly, that the work on the downtown in the last 20 years has been abysmal. We finally got rid of Prism after nearly 15 years of almost unbroken failure, and yet we're in secret negotiations to perhaps hire a new one, and we can't find out what's going on. So there's a great problem with transparency. We also, the council voted to declare the entire town a area in need of rehabilitation, which means that we just gave away 50% of the revenue that we would get in the first 5 years of an improvement because it's an area in need of rehabilitation. Nobody does projects like this, either commercial or residential, for the tax benefits over 5 years. But we need to hire a full-time planner with economic development experience, and they need to be put in charge of this, and it needs to be done with maximum transparency, no secrecy, and so that people in the town can contribute ideas and the direction of where we need to go.
Ms. McCartney?
Downtown, how many towns can boast having a National Historic Park on their main street attracting 60,000 visitors a year? We have the Edison Battery Building remediated and redeveloped with 100% occupancy, collecting tax revenue at $1.4 million, exceeding our expectations. We have permits for build-outs in place for the 18,000 square feet of retail space with 99 public parking spaces. We have acquired 22 acres for film production studios on our main street, adjacent to the Thomas Edison National Historic Park, where motion pictures were invented. Along the corridor, we have Central Avenue, the Harvard Press site, once collecting $17,000 in taxes, now remediated and redeveloped, generating $185,000 in taxes per year. With 22 parking spaces to support the Luna Stage, the West Orange Arts Council Gallery and Gift Shop, restaurants and retail all along the corridor.
Ms. Matute-Brown?
Thank you. I'd just like to correct something my council colleague just said. We do not have 22. We have not acquired 22 acres. We are, it is true, and former Councilman Krakowiak seems to have forgotten that when you're on a council and you're in the process of negotiating, you do not have negotiations in public because they can be detrimental to your negotiations. So it's not about being a secret. It's about negotiating for what's in the best interest of the township. Once the municipality reaches a settlement, we will put that before the residents. If I am elected mayor, we will have a charrette for the downtown area. The plan is to have, and we do have a film studio overlay to serve as an anchor in West Orange so that other businesses can come. And I will tell you that because I led the default on prison redevelopment and reacquired the 10 acres. I also introduced the cannabis industry. Trader Joe's has now contacted the mayor's office because they want to come to town. They are not calling a town that is not about to have an economic boost. And I am proud to say that I led those efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. When I ran for town council, I ran against the current plan for the phase 2 of Edison Lofts, which would have been more townhouses. I organized in that community, knocked on literally every single door, and talked to the residents about what they wanted and needed. We talked about how there used to be a grocery store down there. We talked about the need for a safe, walkable, clean, green, renewable downtown that gave us the amenities that we want and need, and that is possible. When I got elected, the plan was presented to put a warehouse there. I advocated against that and said I would walk those same streets again and knock on every single door to make sure it didn't happen. We now have the opportunity to imagine a new space, a new downtown, built with an eye toward the future. Someone mentioned Thomas Edison before. 60,000 visitors is great, but you can't find another national park in the country that doesn't have development around it. Not a coffee shop, not a restaurant, not a bar, nothing. No streetscape, no seating. We can do better than that. And if we do better than that, we get the relief we need as residential taxpayers and have the amenities that we want and need. Thank you.
Do you believe in establishing a senior citizen advisory board? Would you expand senior citizen services and aging in place initiatives? If so, how? What buildings could be used for a centralized location for seniors to socialize? And could this location be utilized for our youth as well?
Ms. Matute Brown.
Thank you. The answer to both those questions is yes. We are currently building a new library at 10 Rooney. The current library will be 64 100% affordable housing apartments for seniors in town. Once that is developed, we are going to be deeded 7,500 square feet of that facility to be able to have, as the mayor said, a community center for senior citizens or a satellite library and or both. Honestly, I don't think that both can function in that space, but a senior center can certainly function in that space. Certainly do support the Senior Citizen Advisory Board. It is beyond me why we have not. It's an advisory board. Who better to tell us what their needs are for us to be able to meet them than the senior citizens themselves? I support having that. I certainly support having a senior citizen center in town. My grandmother, who is now 98, when she was able to, benefited from being able to attend a senior citizen facility on a daily basis. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Mr. Rutherford.
So the answers are yes. I addressed that in my opening statement. I absolutely believe our seniors need greater structure, a louder voice, certainly when it comes to the services that we provide for them, and make sure that they have the ability to age in place and are challenged mind, body, and spirit on a daily basis. That's how we live our best lives. I find it interesting that my council colleague mentioned the 15% affordable units at Executive Drive. We gave them $100 million in tax breaks in order to get that. And yes, the library is moving, and they promised us in the initial move that we'd leave a satellite on Main Street, and we know that's not happening. So we've got to stop telling people what they want to hear just to get their support, and then as soon as we do something different. And I will say, it's important that we do what we say. I voted against it. I said I would vote against it. Other folks on this dais today voted for it before they voted, or voted against it before they voted for it. You've got to trust the people that you elect to honor their commitments. Time out for electing people that say one thing and then do something else. Thank you.
Mr. Krakowiak.
I think it's definitely a theme now of good ideas that I had that are now being taken up by the rest of the council. When I first started pushing the Senior Citizens Advisory Board and wrote the ordinance, and then finally got it on the agenda and couldn't get a second to continue discussion, I did it because there were very few, if any, programs or personnel that were addressing senior citizens' issues. I thought we'd get the board on, they could recommend what to do, and we would be moving forward on that. What happened was, it appears that the mayor, trying to take this issue away from me, hired a highly skilled coordinator and started doing a lot more programs, did a survey, and the seniors are getting a lot more services now. But I think we can still focus on providing better transportation for them, and as I mentioned earlier, look at the traffic issues, because seniors who walk need to be safe.
Ms. McCartney.
Joe is right. At that time when he introduced that senior advisory board, we did just hire a very competent, exceptional senior service coordinator. And I think I may be the only senior here running for mayor. And as council president, I serve on the Senior Housing Association Board of Directors and the West Orange Women's Club Senior Citizen Committee. I collaborated with the Township Senior Services Office on Partners in Health Aging in Place, the grant initiative to expand programs and resources for our seniors. I voted to approve that redevelopment plan at the library to feature 64 affordable senior housing units with a health center and 7,500 square feet of community space. And, as was mentioned, the state-of-the-art library at Executive Drive. During COVID lockdowns, I volunteered with the Community Emergency Response Team to deliver meals to our homebound seniors. As mayor, I will continue to support, yes, the Senior Advisory Board with mayoral and council appointments, but most importantly, I would want to improve the lines of communication to reach all seniors in an informative, user-friendly way. Thank you.
Do you think the Downtown Alliance should be reorganized to form the West Orange Business Alliance and act as liaison to all businesses located in West Orange? Yes or no, and please explain.
Mr. Rutherford.
That's a very good question. Have not had that question posed to me yet, but yeah, that's the first time that's been posed. I think, my initial thoughts on that are it's going to be difficult given that there is a SID that supports the Downtown Alliance. Special Improvement District is what it stands for, and it's a special tax that the property owners downtown pay in exchange for receiving services from the Downtown Alliance. So I think it would be difficult to do that unless we expanded the SID town-wide, and no one wants to pay higher taxes. So can we advocate better for businesses in town? Absolutely. Can we be more transparent? Can we communicate better? Absolutely. And when I'm mayor, we will do exactly that. Look no further than the township website. You can't find anything except your tax bill on the township website. We can certainly do better than that. I'm looking forward next year to making sure that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Matouk-Brown.
Thank you. There is a desperate need to reorganize and reconstitute the Downtown West Orange Alliance. The reality is that we are receiving SID funds, and we have received them for many, many years. However, there's little to no improvement on our downtown area. We must make sure that we have qualified experts in that space who serve as executive directors. Someone who is an economic developer would serve greatly that purpose. Someone with that experience will attract people and businesses to the downtown district. Right now, we are not doing a good job at it. So yes, I would absolutely support restructuring that Downtown Alliance.
Ms. McCartney.
The business owners on our main street pay a special assessment. As mayor, I would want that what they do with that special assessment is reinvested in their properties along the Main Street corridor. Our Downtown West Orange Alliance works with each business owner to see how they can help them with their facade improvements, design standards. All of that is already in place. Our vacancies are down to less than 4%. I still feel that the Strategic Economic Development Office would be able to help create and attract the businesses that we are looking for family-friendly commercial railways on our main street.
Mr. Kodiak.
Thank you again. When I was on the council, I advocated for a reevaluation of the Downtown West Orange Alliance. I was on it for a year, made some suggested changes, and I wasn't placed back on it the next year. We need to evaluate whether our businesses are getting adequate services. I've heard a lot of complaints, and if it's not adequate, we need to look to modify it. We also need to take a look if we do need to expand it to the rest of the town. Here's the issue. Let's get a full-time planner with economic development experience and put this in his or her lap, and this should be like the first thing that they work on. Thank you.
How will you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in the town? Ms. Matouk-Brown.
Thank you. Once again, I do not have to wait to be elected your mayor to do that. I already do that. With the most challenging decisions, I go to still attend coffee clutches in those neighborhoods. When the Rock Spring acquisition was before me, 3 months after I was sworn in as a councilwoman, I did sit with all of the residents in that area to hear their concerns, sat with many residents outside that immediate area to listen to their concerns, and understanding that it is valuable to listen to our residents helps me make better choices that serve our community best. So I am not one to isolate decisions or work in a bubble. I continue to seek out those residents. And as a mayor, while as a council member, while I was sure to create a line item budget to hire a town planner, it is also important that that town planner has the experience of charrette, so that as we go into development projects, and we have quite a few of them coming up, that we're able to listen to the voices of the residents and have their input considered in the planning process. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney.
Every township commission is open to the public. We invite everyone to join, if you have an idea. I'm just thinking that as the Sustainable Jersey Coordinator for the township and the Town Council Liaison to the Environmental Commission, I have collaborated with public schools, private schools, and individuals in town. We have done so many projects in town, river cleanups, water quality projects. People in town if they want to get involved, they can, and they are welcome to be involved. I've mentored the West Orange High School Virtual Enterprise Program, and that was just with the Environmental Commission. Every commission welcomes residents that are interested, if it's the Human Relations Commission, Public Relations Commission, Arts Council. They are open to the public, and I see the engagement. We can do more. I think it goes back to what I said about reaching all of our individuals, all of our residents in a more effective, informative way.
Mr. Kukoviac.
Oh my gosh. Anybody who watches a council meeting in this town knows that we have a terrible, terrible transparency problem. You guys, it makes it so difficult for us to find out what the heck is going on. And the reason we want transparency, we want residents to know what's going on, is so you can provide input on your government. These guys have been totally secret on this, whatever this redevelopment is downtown. They said they were going to have all of this stuff to tell us what was going on. Zip, nothing. They actually go on at council meetings and say, we're not going to tell you. Folks, it's our town. These people are supposed to work for you. The mayor's supposed to work for you. I'm sorry, this just gets me upset. I am the transparency candidate. I've been pushing since day one, even before I got on the council, to improve transparency. And I hope every one of you believe that we can do a whole lot better with transparency, and I will guarantee you I will do it as mayor. I'm going to have 2 town halls a month, and they're going to be put on the internet so that people can find out what the heck is going on. The council people won't even tell us when the town gets sued. They literally at a council meeting said, no, we don't need to tell the town, even though it's public information. Excuse me.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. So I think it's important that we speak with residents all the time, not just when challenges come up and not just on big votes. And I think when we speak with them, it's important to tell them what we mean and to follow through on what we say. And that's what you can count on from me as mayor. So there are informal ways we can speak with residents, informal ways. We have multiple commissions in town, and that is true. We certainly have office hours as as mayor, and that's true. We can have charrettes when it comes to development. That's true. But even more than that, we have to be proactive about harnessing the talent that lives right here. We have some of the brightest minds in the legal field, in banking, right here, in technology, right here. We have people that are recognized experts in their field, literally around the world, that come from or live right here. And when we rely on that talent, harness that on a proactive basis, we'll get the best ideas up front. And then when the problem comes, we'll be ready. Thank you.
Rate the grant writing team currently hired by West Orange. Are they doing an excellent job, a fair job, a poor job? Rate the legal team in West Orange. Are they doing an excellent or fair or poor job? If elected, will you advocate for the use of their services?
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. So our grant writing team does a great job with what they're given. The problem is they're not given enough. I'll give you an example. When Congressman Payne made his presentation last November about the infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion that we could apply for, I asked two questions. Is there a maximum number of projects we can apply for, and is there a maximum dollar amount? The answer to both of those questions was no. What did we apply for? One project, less than $1 million at one park in town. We can do better than that. So yes, they did a great job with that application. They just need to work on more. Our legal team, I've already said this in council meetings, I find the way Mr. Trink in particular presents information to the township to be offensive, especially when he tells us one thing and then does something else. That cannot stand. Now, I know you don't like to hear those kinds of things in a debate like this, but it is the truth. We have got to do better when it comes to what we communicate, how we communicate, and when we communicate with our residents. Thank you.
Ms. Matute-Brown.
So this is live and everyone will hear it here. I do not believe that Millennium Strategies is the right fit for West Orange, especially not when some of their operatives are supporters of candidates who are running for political office. We should not be accepting donations, contributions from people who we give contracts to. But some of us up here, excluding myself, have. That is an issue. When you have someone who is representing you and is also on contract, the mere appearance of impropriety is wrong. As far as our legal team is concerned, it is my position, and I've said this publicly, we need to build trust. We need to regain trust here in town with our residents looking towards our government. And we cannot do that if we stay in the same space with the legal representation that we have. So no, I will not advocate for Millennium, and I will not advocate for our legal team.
Mr. Krakowiak.
Well, we pay our grant writing firm about $65,000 a year, but I never hear anything that they do. You know what I hear? I hear Councilmember McCartney talking about all of the grants she gets. And I would like to see some separation between the two. To who gets the grants and who gets the credit, are they the same thing? So I would very much like to get that evaluated. On the legal side, I have been very disappointed with the town attorney and also the deputy town attorney. I've said it many times at council meetings, and I've voted against renewing their contracts. We need better representation. We need a law firm where they can spell. You laugh, but I mean, sometimes they just give us second-class written materials, and it needs to get fixed.
Thank you. And Ms. McCartney.
I do have a notebook here, and I just happen to have grants from this current year from Millennium Strategies. It's true, it was said about, I am so actively involved in the grant writing process that grants, I subscribe to these things, so they come across my desk. I do share whatever I have, either from the congressman office, that I already mentioned, the federal funding, I subscribe to that. So that is why I have been so actively involved in the grant writing process. I get grants I do share with our grant writers. I mentioned before about traffic safety. We have 3 million grants pending right now, pending review, that will be announced in the fall. But on this list, let me just hold it up so you can see, because I'm already holding up cards here. There are pages of grants that Millennium Strategies have applied for us, I'm sorry.
Legal team.
Oh, the legal team I think has, is doing an outstanding job.
Please, no discussion.
Will you require vendors who are awarded bids to disclose their political contributions?
Ms. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. Yes, when I was a freshman on the council, it's one of the second ordinances that I presented to my council colleagues. It was never put before them because the ordinance had to do with stricter pay-to-play regulations. We do have pay-to-play laws in the state of New Jersey. However, we would benefit more if we ensured that we kept those vendors outside of our election, because they cause so much disruption when they are funding candidates by the thousands, and it keeps other people from actually running and participating in the process. So yes, I would absolutely ensure that we enforce our pay-to-play laws. It's the only way to start taking money out of politics, and we have to start locally.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. So I absolutely will. The current state of the law really has no teeth. It is just a reporting mechanism, and it does not preclude anyone from doing business with the town if they give to political candidates. I find it interesting that Councilwoman Matute Brown would share her displeasure with Millennium donating to someone, it wasn't me, but donating to some other candidate. When I ran for council, Fairview, our insurance broker, who has been making millions of dollars a year in profits from us, they meddled in that election and supported 3 council candidates. I voted against them both times that they came up for contract renewal, and I'm the only one that did that. My council colleague reversed her vote. We should keep that kind of politics, we should keep that kind of business out of our politics. If you want a no bid contract, first off, we shouldn't have any no bid contracts at all. But you certainly need to put your head down and not meddle in local elected politics if you have one. It's horrible to be in a position to pick the people that are going to give you a no bid contract. Thank you.
Ms. McCartney.
We do have state laws, and local laws cannot supersede our state laws on pay-to-play. All of our elect reports are public knowledge. And we have always been in compliance with our bid contracts and specifications.
Mr. Kokodia.
Anybody wants to find out more? Check out the elect reports, especially for Councilmember McCartney, and just look at that and compare it to her vote for the executive drive, redevelopment area, 30-year tax abatement. See if you can find any connections. I do not take political contributions from anybody that does business with the town, and I limit the amount of contributions that an employee or anybody on any of the boards that exert authority make. Unfortunately, we do have a state law about pay-to-play. It's relatively toothless because, everybody want to say this at the same time, wheeling. Our pay-to-play says you can't have an A to B and a B to A relationship, but it doesn't say anything about the A to C to B to A relationship. And that's what goes on frequently in this state. As mayor, I will pay particular attention to every contract that we give to make sure that none of this goes on.
Do you commit to maintaining the Rock Spring Golf Course in its current configuration, or do you support development on a portion of this property?
Mr. Kokodia.
3 years ago, we borrowed $12 million to buy Rock Spring Club. We're still haven't done anything for it, and we're paying through the nose on interest costs for the borrowing that we made. The interest costs this year are probably going to be more than double our interest costs last year. We really need to take a very serious look at selling this back to the county, get the $12 million off of our books as debt, get rid of the interest costs, and let somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and whatever you can say about the county executive, he knows how to run golf courses. The other thing is, if you walk around that property, there is no room. There is no room for a major development. I know there are a lot of people that think we've got this great opportunity there, but there's not a whole lot of room that's there now for any sort of additional development, or certainly not full-sized athletic fields. And it is really an anchor on our finances that we really need to seriously reconsider.
Ms. Matute Brown?
Thank you. So first off, I would never advocate for us to incur a loss of $600,000 in revenue, ever. Yes, I voted yes. It was my vote, a supermajority vote, to make sure that we acquired and retained the ability to generate revenue from that property. As council president last year, the mayor did propose a development of 302 units. I led my council colleagues a push against our mayor to make sure that we did not develop it because it was sustainable as it is now. It is run by Kemper, who is a great golfing company. They have many successes throughout the state. I would not advocate to sell it. However, I would advocate for us to make sure that we develop what's currently there. And by develop it, I mean modernize it. A small boutique, 80 rooms, a banquet facility, a spa, a restaurant, so that we can continue to generate revenue year-round. But we do not need additional development at Rock Spring.
Ms. McCartney?
I was thrilled to vote yes on the Rock Spring Golf Club acquisition. It was the only vote that received a standing ovation. This vote worked to preserve 136 acres from potential residential development. As of December 2021, with the popularity of the 18-hole historic golf course, the township has collected and recouped $600,000 in the lost revenue when it was privately owned. When the plan to purchase Rock Spring was initially presented to the council and to the community, the projection was to carve out 5 to 10 acres to develop. That was to recoup the $600,000 that we had lost. Then we would apply for Green Acres funding to pay down the debt and preserve the course. As mayor, I am in no rush to see development. So until, or if and when, we see a plan presented, it will again have to have a community input and support in order for us to accept it.
And Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. When I ran for council, I ran on keeping Rock Spring an 18-hole golf course. At the time, they wanted to turn it into housing, split it in half, make it into a 9-hole golf course. That would have ruined the revenue potential there, and it certainly would have added to our tax burden because residential units use $1.25 in services for every dollar they pay in taxes. So I don't know about being led on that. I actually did that on my own 2 years ago. Now, here's the problem. Rock Spring is a great example of what's wrong in town. If you go to Rock Spring right now, behind Rock Spring is something called the Rock Spring Quarry. And that property used to hold debris. Right now, it's been cleared for development. I've not seen a single thing come across the town council, and I've made every single council meeting that would allow a vendor, a contractor, or anyone else to clear that property and do anything there. And I don't know why it's being done. I have inquired of the administration, and maybe they've answered me in the last day or so, and I just haven't caught it. But we don't even know what's going on behind there. That's the lack of transparency that this administration has provided, and you can count on me to do the exact opposite. Make sure you're involved in every decision. Thank you.
Driving around town, one can see many residential and commercial zoning violations. If elected, what will you do to improve enforcement?
Ms. Matute Brown?
Thank you. This current administration has balanced our budget both on our property taxes, but also on ensuring that we have a very thin skeleton crew at Town Hall. There is simply not enough employees in the zoning department or even in the police department to make sure that we are able to enforce. So my plan is to take a look at every department, understand what their priorities are, know what our priorities are, and look at our budget as a moral document and make sure that we are budgeting properly so that we can continue to provide the services that we all have come to enjoy and we all pay for. Thank you.
Mr. Rutherford?
Thank you. So, I've been here for 21 years. When I moved here, we had about 120 police officers on the force. We had about another 6 or 7 non-uniformed employees. We're down to 91. We certainly do need more police. But how are we going to pay for them? Because no one in here wants to pay higher taxes. So the focus has to be on commercial development. And with the commercial tax ratables we raise, and I won't spend a penny before we actually bring it in. With the commercial ratables we raise, we can invest in the places that keep us clean and safe. That's police, fire, and DPW at first. We talk about the speeding in town. We don't have enough police officers, and their morale is in the basement when it comes to handling some of these issues. We can do better than that, and when we do, especially since we ask them to risk their lives for us, when we treat them better, we'll get better outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCartney.
There was a time when, during my council term, that the zoning officer, health director, administrator, business administrator, we actually walked the streets noting zoning or areas that needed to be enforced, or houses. I think we have characteristically beautiful neighborhoods. And of course, we all want to keep them that way, safe and beautiful. If I'm elected mayor, I would go back to that, having the administration walk neighborhoods, giving people notices, not violation notices, but notices on what needs to be done with their properties. We've done that in the past, and it was very effective, and I believe that we can do that again. I saw that just recently. I am doing the door-to-door campaign, and I saw that recently where there are a lot of cars that are parked on streets, and people are complaining that their streets can't be cleaned. Just by me being there, I was able to bring it back to the administration to put notices on the cars so that they need to move on such and such a date so their streets can be cleaned. That's just one example. I think we can do that townwide.
Mr. Krakowiak.
Anybody who keeps their eyes open can see the voluminous amounts of maintenance problems, particularly on commercial properties here in town. We got to find out why that is. And we also need to find out why, and when we find out, we need to enforce. I think enforcement is going to be a major issue here to get people to start paying attention to this. The same way with the planning board and zoning board conditions of approval, we don't ever enforce those. I can tell you right now, there are violations going on where people just don't pay attention to this. I also want to just point out something that I think you guys should know about. At the last council meeting, there was a resolution that said we are affirming that the law department and the town attorney can get involved in prosecuting local issues. Now, the problem with that is that the town attorney gets paid a fixed amount until there's litigation. So there wasn't anything in this resolution that explained why they were all of a sudden expanding their contract.
With the increase in automobile theft and the recent shooting homicide on Watson Avenue, what is your plan to reduce crime?
Mr. Krakowiak.
I went to the wake yesterday of that poor 21-year-old young man who was murdered on Watson Avenue. And it was terrible. I have a son the same age. It was horrible. I don't ever want to see anybody in West Orange have to go through that. There was mass hysteria, so sad. There's already been one meeting that we've held, a group of us in town and out of town, to start a program to get these young people more attention, more programming, to make it easier for them to go the right way on the path. But we have got to, as a community, say we are not going to be a town where young people get shot and killed. And I hope many of you will join us in that effort.
Ms. McCartney.
We all want to feel safe. We want to enjoy our neighborhoods and feel safe in our public spaces. As I did on council, if elected mayor, I will continue to support the police department's forward-thinking direction. As councilwoman, I voted to support the police department's initiatives to put in place the first in the state policing programs that work to ensure our safety. Operation Hope for addiction treatment, domestic violence response team, the Take Me Home program for a vulnerable population, the Diversity and Implicit Bias Training, the Faith and Blue Clergy Police Coalition, and the Community Service Police Unit. And proving to be most effective, the successful partnership with the Mental Health Association of Morrison, Essex. The situation is dreadful. And I do want to say, though, according to the recent FBI crime statistics, West Orange currently has the lowest crime rate in 40 years. They have done outstanding work. And as a resident and mayor, I will work to keep it that way and create the programs that were addressed when Councilman Rutherford created that forum.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. If what we were doing was enough, we wouldn't be seeing a police officer get shot in the back of the head at the CVS in December. We wouldn't have Chit Chat be robbed at gunpoint in January. We wouldn't have a period of 6 or 7 weeks, 4 weeks this summer where we had 6 or 7 gun-related incidents. If what we were doing was working, we wouldn't have that problem, culminating with the murder of a young man on Watson and Chestnut. Now, that's not to say that we're not safe. We are a safe town. You live here, I live here. These are alarming statistics, even if they're not high. But we have to do better. How do we do that? Number one, we have to look at the causes of violence, and that's really poverty and lack of resources. We need to make things more accessible and fair for those of us that have the least among us. And we can do that because we're an affluent town. And then we also have to look at the law enforcement angle. When every town around us is investing in their police and the technology, and we don't, crime is going to follow the path of least resistance, and we're going to face that. So license plate readers on every entrance and exit on 280, license plate readers on the cars, improved camera technology, and more police, along with additional resources for the most impacted communities. Thank you.
And Ms. Matute Brown.
So I don't always agree with my council colleague McCartney, but it is true that we are experiencing the lowest rate of crime in town that we have seen in many, many years. It is unfortunate that this isolated incident has given rise for people's political platforms. I think that we need to seriously engage the school district and our school community if we are going to come up with a resolution. We are safe here in town, and the rise in car thefts is likely, and I will say this is true, one of my neighbors, I don't know if you're here, but unfortunately that happened in our circle. His car was stolen because he left his fob key in there. We need to just continue to remind our residents, as the police department is doing, but also, we also need to be very conscious of the fact that we're sitting on several entrances and off-ramps to 280. It makes us the perfect target. So we have to help ourselves before we can start putting more police on entrances and exits. I'm not a fan of over-policing any community, particularly one that has Black and brown people. I am not supportive of that. Thank you.
To change the tenor of the questioning, what are your favorite places to spend time in town?
Ms. Matute Brown.
Now they're gonna have some people upset with me. Restaurant-wise, I am a foodie. Love the BYOB Nicholas Anthony's on Main Street, so certainly like to spend time there. But I live, and we are very blessed to live on a home that backs up to the reservation. So my blessing is driving home and being able to come out and enjoy the wonderful trees that we have, especially today. It's what makes me smile. Thank you.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. Yeah, the open space, I actually walk in the South Mountain Reservation. My house abuts it as well. And so I love just walking through there, usually with my dog or even by myself. It does bring me joy, and that's why, one of the big reasons why I live here is the tree canopy that we have. These are some of the best hills you'll see anywhere. We do need more parks. We can do better about that, and I think if we had more spaces like that, we'd have more opportunity for community building. But certainly the outdoor spaces are my favorite. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. McCartney.
Because as a public servant for so long, I think what excites me is working with the students. And that really, as a Sustainable Jersey coordinator for the township, I invite all of you to join us on Tuesday at 10 o'clock over at Vincent's Pond at Degnan Park, because the students have been working on a water quality test. This is fun to me. This is exciting to work with the students at the high school. But I have worked with students in public and private schools on so many projects. And as an educator and public servant, that really brings me joy. Thank you.
And Mr. Krakowiak.
Thank you. My two favorite places in town are OSPAC. It's a jewel for us. It's an outdoor, for those of you who don't know, it's an outdoor performing arts center, and it's wonderful when it's not raining. The other place I really like to go to is the library. We have an excellent library, even though the council declared it blighted and we needed to close it and move it up to behind ShopRite. I still find it an excellent place to spend time and meet people, and of course, as you can see, I like the restaurants.
I don't need that. It's time for your closing statements now. We're going to go in reverse order of your opening statements, and you have 2 minutes each, starting with Mr. Krakowiak.
West Orange is a great place, but increasingly unaffordable, especially for seniors on fixed incomes and young people and families just starting out. This hurts our diversity, which many of us treasure. The other three people on this stage are the ones most responsible for this. Council members McCartney and Matute Brown voted to raise taxes 8.3% in 2019. I voted no. They voted to borrow a jaw-dropping $113 million over the last 3 years. All three other candidates to borrow $62 million just last year alone. I'm the only candidate without that stain on my record. This has ballooned debt by 77% to $142 million and debt service to pay it back. And it's likely to get worse as the Fed keeps raising interest rates, pressuring taxes to go up. Council members McCartney and Matute Brown have voted for redevelopment 30-year tax abatements that mortgage our future by giving up millions of dollars of revenue, leaving us to make up tax shortfalls. They may even be negotiating another one, but we don't know of it because of the secrecy. This pattern of bad decisions has caused our tax base to shrink in 8 of the last 10 years. That severity of decline is almost unheard of. Councilmember Rutherford admitted at a council meeting he didn't understand how that could happen. But it means we have a shrinking assessment pie that requires us to pay more taxes than we should to balance the budget, which in turn further hurts our property values. Now they're all talking about fixing the financial mess they put us in, but their record disqualifies them. I'll stop these terrible decisions, limit further borrowing, cut waste without impacting services, increase competitive bidding to reduce costs, and manage the budget to a no tax increase instead of the 2% we manage it to now. I see the way to a better future where everyone in our diverse community thrives, businesses open and grow, property taxes are lower, and municipal operations become more efficient. I see young families affording to build roots and seniors able to age in place. My vision will help West Orange make it more livable, safe, and affordable. Please vote 3G on November 8th for responsible government that works for you.
Thank you. Ms. McCartney?
As a long-standing businesswoman in town, I intend to use my leadership experience, creative energy, and resourcefulness to lead West Orange forward as your next mayor. As a community leader, I value the diversity of ideas as well as the individuals who share them so we can build upon those ideas. West Orange needs my experience, networking power, and proven problem-solving skills in the mayor's office now. I believe I am the most qualified. I believe we share a common vision on equity, safety, and accountability. As mayor, my goal will be to represent the township with honor and integrity, respecting and understanding the significance of our diversity. As an owner and director for 25 years, my employees have been working with me for the majority of those years. As mayor, I will use my management style and leadership skills to respect the importance of satisfied employees and residents so we can embrace and promote the strengths of our town. That is why I'm asking you, that is why I'm here today to ask for your vote on November 8th. And if you haven't voted already, Polls open at 6 a.m.
Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you. Thank you, Pleasant Valley Civic Association, B'nai Shalom, and all of you here today. I think what we can all agree on is that we have a real jewel of a town. This is the heart of Essex County. We've just not treated it that way. In some cases, politics gets in the way, personalities and egos. In other cases, poor fiscal management. And we've even had outsiders meddle in our politics, both party bosses and as well as contractors. I think we all deserve better than that. I think when we have a government that's run for the people, that puts people first, that's not afraid to listen to anyone, even when we disagree, that is serious about doing the work that makes our lives here better, I think we can build something special. Yes, we have some great assets, but more important than that are the people that are here. We're in B'nai Shalom, one of our bigger synagogues in town. The Jewish community is a particularly vital part of our community. So is the Hispanic community. So is the Black community. I mean, we have diversity by every measurement you can imagine. And that's what makes us special. So, yes, let's focus on these assets, but let's elevate the people. Let's look to put the residents first. Let's make sure that we represent their interests in every negotiation, every single time. And when we do that, we will have created something special, even as we go about building up downtown, and preserving open space, and investing in the parts of town that keep us clean and safe. But along the way, we'll have a stronger community, we'll be better neighbors, better friends, and we'll be prepared to address the challenges that we will inevitably face. And we'll do it as one West Orange. That's why I'm running. That's why I'm asking you to vote Rutherford on November 8th. Because together, that's what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Matute Brown.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you who are here, all of you who are paying attention virtually, and to the organizers of this forum. I think it's very important that we all pay attention, and I want us to pay attention specifically to our accomplishments. As a 4-year young, and I mean 4 years young on a council, not that I am young, but as being on the council for just 4 short years, I have actual, tangible accomplishments that do work for the people. There are comments that are made, pot shots that are taken. I'm not here for any of that. I am here for you. I've demonstrated that to you by ushering in a cultural literacy language that does make sure that we are properly represented on the municipal level, that elevates the voices of the community everywhere, that elevates the voices of those forgotten corners. When I came on, I was given busy work, I thought, when they assigned me to the rent leveling board. And by assigning, yes, the council does vote on which committees we are on. However, there is at least one committee, no two, Degnan House, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the other senior citizen facility, but only 2 council members have access to those senior buildings and they don't give them up, and you figure out why. I have made sure that the rent leveling board was reconstituted because we have 33% voters in our town, and they had no services, nowhere to get resources from. They do now. The council actually heard an appeal process for the first time in well over 20 years. I am here for the people. I have been here for the people. Voting for Rock Spring was because I knew that while former Councilman Kokorbiak said that he would ask it to be sold back, that is ludicrous to me. You're asking to give away $600,000 and then you all have to make it up. The votes that my council colleagues took to give this current administration power over the next incoming administration is also sad, because we're paying for that. I'm sorry, I have to stop there, but I do ask for your vote, please. I have been the only candidate that has progressed this municipality to a place where we are now able to benefit from.
Let's give a really big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for coming out. We hope that some of your questions were answered today, and Michelle's going to say a couple of words.
But first, on behalf of the Pleasant Valley Civic Association and League of Women Voters, I again would like to thank the mayoral candidates for participating in this important event and for sharing their positions with you. The League of Women Voters urges all registered voters to exercise their right to vote during this year's general election scheduled on Tuesday, November 8th. The deadline for voter registration has passed. However, there are 3 ways to vote. Number 1, vote by mail. Registered voters may apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found at elections.nj.gov or getting a form that's on the table at the exit. In person, by early voting. Registered voters may cast a ballot in person using a voting machine from October 29th through November 6th. Hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8, and 10 to 6 on Sunday. The closest location is at the New Education Center at South Mountain Recreation Complex on Northfield Avenue. Third, on Election Day, November 8th, at the polling place specified on the front of your sample ballot, polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The answers to most election questions are available at vote411.org and essexclerk.gov. If you have an issue or specific voting questions or a problem with voting on Election Day, call the League of Women Voters of New Jersey voter hotline 1-800-792-VOTE, V-O-T-E. Remember, they only hear us if we vote. And now, Roz Moskowitz will close.
Just again, thank you very much for coming. I want to extend my thanks to Lori Capital. Great time for you today. Thank you, Rabbi Tobin again. And drive safely when you hit those roads.
Right here.
Should I get in with you?
Yes, that would be.
I'm in your way.
Why don't you all step in front of the podium? Rabbi Tobin, why don't you step in front of the podium?
We're all good.